Hello and welcome to another episode of Bekku Movies. Today I'm going to try and speak briefly about a person who is, let's be honest, is not popular and never been popular. James Gunn, who is the director who came from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to join DC. And when I say to join DC, he was forced on the fans because nobody asked for this guy to be head of DC. And just a brief summary. DC, which is owned by Warner Brothers, which will be owned soon by another studio, most likely they'll get rid of Gunn. Because DC had always, when I say DC, Warner Brothers, who owns DC, always had a hard-on for Marvel directors. If we all remember, they hired Joss Whedon to basically finish directing the Justice League after Zack Snyder had a family tragedy and had to leave. And of course, he butchered that movie because he only knows how to make jokes that are not funny, and Zack Snyder likes to make serious movies. Same thing before that with Bryan Singer, who directed the X-Men movies for 20th Century Fox X-Men. And although that director is a much better director than Joss Whedon, again with his Superman Returns movie, which was an average movie, it was basically a flop, and it was a very mediocre movie because it didn't work. It didn't match the tone of the serious DC brand. Although, again, compared to Joss Whedon, he was much more serious. Still, it didn't work. So now we come to James Gunn, because we all know WB has tried rebooting DC multiple times, okay? And basically they had to go to James Gunn because they thought this one's gonna be the one, you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna happen the first time. It's not the second time. You know, whether it's the first time with Bryan Singer or second time with Joss Whedon. The third time with James Gunn. And again, surprise, surprise, it didn't work, and we'll get into it. So basically, when he took over DC, and he started that by, I know he denies that, but it's a lie, by firing Henry Cavill, who came back as Superman after Black Adam. So basically what we are saying as movie fans, he needs to leave DC for the following simple reasons. Because nobody wanted this guy to be head of DC. We would have taken anyone else as head of DC apart from this guy, okay? I mean, a lot of fans wanted Zack Snyder. Other fans wanted Christopher Nolan. Even some fans, I think I've heard they wanted Todd Phillips. Anyone would have made a better head of DC than James Gunn. Okay, so some of the reasons, I was doing kind of a random Google just to see what's the online consensus about James Gunn. So basically, there's a lot of uncertainty in this brand. Okay, it's not just he makes jokes, and his movies are not profitable, and I'll go through them. But there's a lot of corporate uncertainty, of course, because now Warner Brothers is going to be sold to another studio, maybe Netflix, maybe Paramount, could be Universal. So this guy's not going to stay, so he needs to go. Because if he was successful, the studio wouldn't be in this crappy position. I'm not saying that their $40 billion debt would have disappeared, but they would have been in a much better position, whether it's to stay as a studio or to sell at a higher price than what they are selling now, if James Gunn Universe, the DCU, was a success. But it wasn't a success, and even these points online says that there was a lot of questions about his box office success. And by the way, Superman cost more than 200 million. It's at least 360. And the ad campaign is not 100. I mean, they put a statue of Superman on the Shard, which is the highest, I think, tallest skyscrapers in London. These things cost money, especially in the UK. But because it wasn't shot in the UK, because they have to declare their expenses, it was shot in America, so we don't know how much Superman cost. So it was definitely a flop. In addition to other reasons, that if James Gunn, when he took over DC, was preceded by, let's say, worse universe, if he has taken over at that time, people would have said, you know what, at least it's better what came before him. But the thing is, it wasn't, because the Snyderverse, which is Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, and also you can count Wonder Woman Part 1 and even, what's his name, Suicide Squad by David Ayer. These movies were successful, and even Aquaman, which is kind of part of the Snyderverse, it's a $1 billion movie. Afterwards, everything was a flop, especially the Hamada-verse movies, you know, the Shazam Part 2, Aquaman Part 2, The Flash, it's all huge flops. The only movie that was kind of tried to be successful but didn't was the the Rock, Black Adam movie, and that was mainly because he brought Henry Cavill as Superman, and there was hype, and then Gunn took over, like I said, and he fired Henry Cavill. So because I don't want this to be Gunn versus Snyder, although it is online now. If you check online, it's all about Zack Snyder versus James Gunn, but it isn't, honestly. It's about getting this guy out of DC. Because let's look at his filmography just kind of very briefly, okay? I know these are not all his movies, but this is mainly focusing on his comic book filmography. And even, by the way, if you look at the movies he directed, I think he only directed Slither before the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, which is a kind of horror movie. I tried to watch it. I'm sorry, I just didn't like it. Like I said, he's not that good of a movie maker. I've heard also he's done Hero, which was a movie done, I think, a couple of years ago. Can't remember the names of the actors. Again, very mediocre movie. And then, of course, he became more famous with, in addition to his infamous tweets, which I'm not going to say which were, let's just say he likes a particular age group. Anyway, James Gunn likes a particular age group. Let's leave it there. He did the Guardians of the Galaxy. By the way, the first Guardians of the Galaxy, people try to make it as the second coming of Jesus. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's a cartoon, basically. And some of the jokes worked, a lot of the jokes didn't work, but it was watchable. And to be honest, I've only watched it once or twice. Once in the cinema, maybe once on TV. The second one was horrible, the second Guardian of the Galaxy. The third one, and this is when he was fired because of his infamous tweets liking a particular age of human beings. Okay, let's leave it that way. Let's put it that way. Anyway, part 3 was unwatchable. I tried to watch a couple of minutes. I was like, nope, especially after I knew what this guy has tweeted in the past. So that was one of the reasons he was fired, then hired by Disney. And the funny thing is, he was hired by Disney for part 3, but then let's be honest, the guy is kind of a lucky bastard because he was hired by DC for, nobody expected this. Because like I said, DC has already tried Joss Whedon and Bryan Singer. It didn't work from Marvel, so why do it third time? But again, DC is this dumb. So he did the Suicide Squad, and I was like, you know what? I hate this guy, but this one might work because it's a bunch of mischiefs who don't like each other, who learn how to work with each other. It has a lot of gory violence, and this is DC, so they let him go R-rated, not like Disney. Disney was all PG-13. So his creepiness wasn't that visible. But with this movie, I mean, when I watched it, I was like, you know what? This guy might prove me wrong. He might be the right guy for this movie, at least for this franchise, because this is like Guardians of the Galaxy. And this is what DC wanted for ages. They wanted him to direct Suicide Squad before even David Ayer, which is really sad. David Ayer is a much better movie maker. But when you look at the Suicide Squad, which is horrible movie, I mean, he massacred the characters of David Ayer. It's not just he killed the main characters that David Ayer presented in his movies. He didn't even have Jared Leto Joker. He had Harley Quinn without Jared Leto Joker, and she was a very obnoxious, annoying person. The violence was ridiculous. Gory, but it wasn't like disgusting gory, but it's pointless gory. King Shark, he was a joke. He made him into a joke. Oh yeah, there was that scene when, if anyone has watched the movie remembers this, when they killed all the people who are against the government, the revolution people, and they made it into a joke because it's funny, they were killing all these characters and these are the bad guys. Then it turns out these are the good guys, and actually they were asleep and they were taking a break or whatever, and they made it into a joke, and I was like, how is this funny? How is this killing innocent people is funny? Again, this didn't work. I think he did the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special as well. I think it was a little bit funny with Marvel, but again, it's nothing that special. And then he made, of course, this one was an odd choice. I mean, the Suicide Squad, I was like, maybe, like I said, bunch of mischiefs, he can make it work. But when they chose him for Superman, I was like, No, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's learned from the Suicide Squad, which was a huge flop, by the way. Financially, it was a huge, huge flop. And nobody speaks about this movie, by the way. When he did Superman, and I'm not going to talk about Creature Commandos or The Peacemaker, which are TV shows and animation on DC, which were horrible, horrible, crappy shows. Nobody watched anyway. I'm going to focus on the movies. When he did Superman, it's the same old jokes that don't work. He made Superman into a bitch-ass Superman who gets his ass kicked by almost everyone in the movie. Horrible CGI. We also the what I like to call the clown's foot image. When he walks, the image is distorted in his foot. You can see that image online. Horrible score. He massacred the John Williams score. All he had to do is use the John Williams score. But even that one, he massacred the score. The cinematography was horrible. We all saw the flying scenes, which didn't make any sense. And surprise, surprise, the movie was a huge flop. And although everyone online, I mean everyone, from the shill media to the legacy media to the shills, no, it's a success. No, it's a success. And the movie failed to beat Man of Steel, which is a movie that's more than 10 years old than James Gunn Superman. It failed to bypass that movie without even adjusting for inflation. I mean, how sad and pathetic. And I love the way that they say, no, it's just 42. No, it's more than that loss-wise. It's lost more than this. So long story short, if you compare this guy to Zack Snyder's filmography, which is something I spoke in a previous video, you can see the huge difference between this guy's filmography and Zack Snyder's filmography, which includes 300, Watchmen, in addition to Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. So if you think about it, both of these directors have made 5 movies, 5 comic book movies each, if you can, if you think about it. But Zack Snyder's filmography, visual style is much, much better. And he gets much better costume designers, he gets much better CGI team. I'm sorry, James Gunn, he's not even good at the humor. He's not even funny. The guy is box office poison. Why does Hollywood keep employing this guy, especially after his offensive tweets? It doesn't make any... It's like he's got something against Hollywood, some kind of dick pics or I don't know, whatever. But seriously, this guy needs to go. He is damaging the DC brand to a certain extent that I think even it's going to be very difficult, whether if you get Christopher Nolan, Christopher McQuarrie, Ben Affleck, it's going to be very difficult even for these famous directors to save DC. And that's why this guy needs to go away. I mean, if Joss Whedon couldn't make it, and he had the Avengers 1 and 2, which both of them made $1 billion. If Bryan Singer, which he had the X-Men, some of them were, I think, was it close to $1 billion? They were very good movies, the X-Men, 20th Century Fox X-Men by Bryan Singer. And that guy is a creep in real life. But again, amazing director, and he couldn't make it work. Why would it work for James Gunn? Why would it work for James Gunn? So look, he had his chance. He had his big chance with the Suicide Squad, which, like I said, it should have been at least 600 to 800 million, easy for him, because that's his, that's the movies he likes to make. And he had his chance with Superman, which is a very famous IP. We don't want any more movies from this guy. I know he's already signed to do Man of Tomorrow, which is kind of a rip-off from Zack Snyder's Man of Tomorrow with Brainiac. It won't work because he'll team up with what's his name, Lex Luthor, I like to call him, and it's not gonna work. And of course we've got Supergirl, which had a poster just released today and saying that, oh, you know what, it's about truth and justice and whatever, and you can't even say truth, justice, and the American way. And this is coming from a guy who's not even American. It's ridiculous. DC is in a mess. James Gunn is not the guy. Just fire him. Okay, fire him and restore the Snyderverse. You've got nothing to lose at this stage, DC.